The morning sky above Geneva turned silver as three enormous ships descended through the clouds. Daejung stood on the roof of the United Nations building, his heart pounding against his ribs. After months of long-range communication, the aliens were finally here. He adjusted his tie and took a deep breath. This was it. First contact. You're beautiful, Yunhee whispered beside him. She clutched her tablet, ready to record every detail. As a xenolinguist, she had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The ships hung in the air like polished mirrors reflecting the sunrise. They made no sound. Hannah stood on Daejung's other side, her military uniform crisp and perfect. Her hand rested near her sidearm, though she knew it would be useless against technology like this. Beautiful and terrifying, she muttered. Let's hope they're as friendly as they claim. The largest ship opened. A ramp of light extended down to the rooftop. Daejung stepped forward, followed by his team. His legs felt weak, but he kept his face calm. He had practiced this moment 100 times. The first alien appeared at the top of the ramp. Ambassador Trelvax looked like a centipede made of glass and moonlight. Its body was long and segmented, with dozens of small legs that clicked softly as it moved. The translator device around what Daejung assumed was its neck began to speak in perfect Korean. People of Earth, we come in peace and friendship. Daejung bowed, then extended his hand, unsure if the gesture would translate. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We are honored by your presence. Trelvax studied the hand for a moment, then extended one of its forward limbs. The touch was cool and smooth. The honor is ours. Your planet signals reached us 5 years ago. We have waited eagerly to meet you. The next hours passed in a blur. More aliens emerged from the ships. Some looked like floating jellyfish. Others resembled armored beetles. One species looked almost human, except for their silver eyes and blue skin. All of them were friendly. All of them seemed genuinely excited to meet humans. They moved the meeting inside to a conference room. The aliens sat in specially prepared chairs and platforms. Yenny's translation software worked perfectly with their universal translators. Within an hour, they were having actual conversations. Your art is magnificent, Trelvax said, studying the paintings on the walls. Such emotion. Such violence and beauty mixed together. It is rare in the galaxy. Violence? Daejung asked carefully. Oh, not literal violence, the ambassador clarified. But your art has passion, conflict. Most species lose this when they reach your level of technology. They become calm, peaceful, but humans still have fire in their souls. Daejung smiled. He wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a concern. Over the next 3 days, the negotiations went smoothly. The Valari represented the Galactic Confederation, a union of 17 species that had maintained peace for over 2,000 years. They wanted Earth to join as a junior member. The benefits were incredible: new technology, access to interstellar trade, protection from hostile species, and knowledge from dozens of worlds. The process is simple, Captain Nixar explained. He was Trelvax's security officer, a creature that looked like a walking crab with too many eyes. We review your culture, your technology, and your military capabilities. Then the council votes on membership. Military capabilities? Hannah asked. This was her area. Standard procedure, Nixar assured her. We need to understand how each species defends itself. It helps us integrate your forces into the Confederation's defense network. That made sense? Hannah arranged a demonstration at a military base in Nevada. The Valari delegation arrived the next morning, curious and eager to learn. Daejung watched as human soldiers displayed their equipment: assault rifles, armored vehicles, fighter jets, and missile systems. The technology was impressive by Earth standards. It's built and refined through centuries of warfare. The aliens seemed almost bored. Kinetic projectiles, Captain Nixar observed, examining a rifle. We use similar weapons. Slightly more advanced, but the principle is the same. Your aircraft are elegant, Trelvax added, watching a jet fly overhead. Less sophisticated than ours, but you will catch up quickly. Anna felt oddly disappointed. She had expected more of a reaction. That evening, back at the hotel, Trelvax approached Daejun in the lobby. "May I speak freely?" the ambassador asked. "Of course." "I am relieved," Trelvax said. "Your military is strong, but not excessive. Most young species focus too much on weapons. They build terrible things, paranoid about threats that do not exist. But humans show restraint. You have enough to defend yourselves, but you have not gone mad with power." Daejung felt a surge of pride. "We learned from our mistakes. We've had enough wars. Now we want peace." "That is good," Trelvax said. "That is very good. You will fit well in the Confederation." The celebration that night was joyful. Diplomats from around the world gathered to toast the successful first contact. Humanity would join the stars. They would have allies, friends, and a place in the galactic community. Yandash, he found Daejung on the balcony, looking up at the Valari ships that still hung in the night sky. "We did it," she said softly. "We did," he agreed. "This is the beginning of everything. The ambassador seems pleased with us, said we show restraint in our weapons development. That most species go too far, but we stopped it just enough." Yanhi laughed. "I suppose he's right. We could have built worse things, but we chose not to." Dayu nodded. He thought about all the weapons treaties, the disarmament agreements, the decades of work to reduce humanity's arsenal. It had all been worth it. His phone buzzed. A message from Hannah. "Valari delegation wants to visit Seoul tomorrow. Cultural tour. They want to see how normal humans live." Daejung smiled and typed back his approval. Of course they did. The diplomatic part was almost done. Now came the cultural exchange, the real friendship building. He looked up at the ships again. Everything was going perfectly. The Valaria liked humans. They thought Earth was ready to join the galactic community. They had even complimented humanity's restraint with weapons. What could possibly go wrong? Inside the Valari flagship, Captain Nixar reviewed the day's data. The military demonstration had been satisfactory. Nothing concerning. Nothing unexpected. Human weapons were primitive but adequate. They would need upgrades. That was normal for new species. He filed his report and marked humanity as low threat, suitable for membership. Tomorrow would be the cultural visit. A simple tour of a human city. A chance to see regular civilians going about their daily lives. It would be pleasant and boring. Like all cultural tours, Nixar had been on 100 first contact missions. They all followed the same pattern. Meet the government, review the military, visit the cities. Write the final report. Welcome them to the Confederation. Easy, simple, routine. He settled into his rest chamber and closed all 6 of his eyes. Tomorrow would be just another day of paperwork and tourism. He had no idea how wrong he was. Seoul welcomed the aliens with flowers and music. Children lined the streets, waving flags from 17 different worlds. News cameras followed the delegation everywhere. G1, a journalist who had covered the first contact from the beginning, walked alongside the group with her camera drone buzzing overhead. "This is incredible," Trelvax said, watching a street performance. Dancers in traditional Korean clothing moved to drums and flutes. Such energy. Such life. Daejung beamed with pride. This was his city, and he wanted the aliens to love it. "We're happy to share our culture with you." Minsu, the police detective assigned to security, walked slightly ahead of the group. His job was to keep the crowds under control and make sure the route stayed clear. So far, everything was perfect. The aliens were smiling, or at least making their species equivalent of a smile. They visited Gyeongbukgung Palace first. The ancient buildings amazed the Valari. "You preserved your history," one of the jellyfish-like aliens said. "Many species destroy their past when they advance. We treasure it," Yunhee explained. She had joined the tour to help with cultural questions. "Our past makes us who we are." Next came a traditional market. The smells of food filled the air. Vendors called out, selling everything from fresh vegetables to handmade crafts. The aliens were fascinated. They sampled kimchi, tried on hanbok, and bought souvenirs. "Your economy is so organic," Trelvax observed. "Individual merchants, personal transactions. Most advanced species automate everything. We like the personal touch, Daiyun said. Besides, these markets have existed for centuries. They're part of our soul. Everything was going wonderfully. The aliens loved human food, human art, and human hospitality. Captain Nixer seemed relaxed, his many eyes taking in everything with curiosity rather than suspicion. Then they passed to sporting goods store. Nixer stopped suddenly. His eyes focused on the window display. "What are those?" he asked, pointing with one of his claws. Minsu glanced at the window. "Oh, those are hunting rifles. For sport and pest control." Translator must have malfunctioned. Nixar's entire body went rigid. "Hunting rifles?" "Yeah," Minsu said, not noticing the alien's reaction. "That's a pretty nice one, actually. Bolt action, good for deer. My brother has one similar." "Your brother," Nixar repeated slowly, "owns a weapon like this." "Sure, lots of people do. You need a license, of course, but it's not that hard to get if you follow the rules." Darjong felt his stomach drop. He saw the look on Trelvax's face. Something was wrong. "These are civilian weapons?" the ambassador asked. "Not military?" "Correct," Minsu confirmed, still not understanding the problem. "Citizens can own them. For hunting, target shooting, collecting, it's legal." Trelvax turned to Darjong. "We need to talk privately now." They found a quiet cafe and asked for a private room. Ji-1 tried to follow, but Minsu held her back. "Give them space," he said quietly. Inside, Trelvax paced back and forth on his many legs. Captain Nixar stood perfectly still, which Daiyun had learned meant he was very upset. "Explain this to me," Trelvax said. "Your civilians possess military-grade kinetic weapons." "They're not military-grade," Daijong protested. "Those are simple firearms. Civilians have owned guns for centuries. It's part of our culture." "The Galactic Confederation," Nixer said coldly, "only authorized military and security personnel carry weapons. This has been standard for 3,000 years across all 17 member species." 3,000 years? Yun, he asked. She had joined them, her face pale. "When species reach a certain level of civilization, they remove weapons from civilian possession. It is a sign of advancement, of trust, of peace. We have peace," Daijung insisted. "Gun violence is tragic when it happens, but it's not common. Most people never fire their weapons except at ranges or while hunting, but they could," Trelvax said. "At any moment, your civilians could use military force. How can you have peace when everyone is armed? How can you have peace when everyone is helpless?" Daijung shot back. "Our people choose not to hurt each other. That choice means something." The conversation was interrupted by shouting outside. They rushed to the window. The delegation had continued walking and reached a gun range. The sound of recreational shooting echoed through the street. Captain Strant's translator started speaking rapidly in his own language. Daiyung didn't need a translation to understand fear when he heard it. "They're just practicing, Yun," he said desperately. "It's a sport, like archery." "Archery with weapons that can kill at 1,000 meters, Nixar replied. G1's camera captured the moment when Captain Nixar contacted the Valari flagship. The footage would later become famous. His voice was shaking as he spoke. "We need to reassess the human threat level. Immediately." The tour ended early. The aliens returned to their ships. Daijung stood in the street watching them go, feeling everything fall apart. "What just happened?" Minsu asked, bewildered. "Scared them," Yun he said quietly. "We scared them badly." That night, emergency meetings happened on both sides. The human diplomats tried to understand the problem. The Valari tried to understand how they had missed something so obvious. Hannah joined Daiyung in his office. Neither of them could sleep. "They think we're dangerous," she said. "We showed them our military," Daijung said. They were fine with it. "But civilian guns? That's what scares them?" "Think about it from their perspective," Hannah said. "They've had peace for thousands of years. No species in their confederation allows civilian weapons. To them, we're a planet full of armed people who could turn violent at any moment." "Right, but we don't," Daijung said. "Most people never hurt anyone. They don't understand that yet. They see capability, not choice. Yoni burst into the office with her tablet. I've been researching Confederation history. Every member species went through a disarmament period before joining. They removed all civilian weapons. It's considered a rite of passage. They want us to disarm our entire population. Dajun felt sick. I don't know what they want. But there's an emergency meeting tomorrow. Ambassador Trelvax is bringing someone from the Confederation Council. This is bad, Hannah said. It's worse than bad, Dajun replied. We were so close. We had a place in the stars. And we lost it because Minshu mentioned hunting rifles. Outside, the Valari ships hung in the sky like accusations. Inside the flagship, Captain Nixar couldn't rest. He had compiled a report on human civilian weapons, rifles, shotguns, handguns, even crossbows, and compound bows. The humans called them sporting equipment. Nixar called them an arsenal. His report went to the Confederation Council with a red flag attached. Species assessment requires immediate review. Civilian population is heavily armed. Threat level unclear. The response came within hours. A council member would arrive tomorrow to conduct a full investigation. Nixar looked down at Earth, at the lights of cities full of armed civilians, and wondered if humanity had already failed the test. Not because they were too weak, but because they were too dangerous. In her apartment, Juan reviewed the footage from today. The moment when the aliens realized the truth, the fear in their movements, the shock in their voices, she had a feeling this story was far from over. In fact, it might be just beginning. Council member Valshara arrived like a storm. Her ship was larger than the others, darker, and carried the weight of authority. She belonged to a species that looked like walking trees, with bark-like skin and branches that moved like arms. When she spoke, every translator in the room hummed with the depth of her voice. I have reviewed Captain Nixar's report, she said without greeting or ceremony. I am here to determine if humanity poses a threat to Confederation peace. The meeting room felt cold. Daejung sat across from her, flanked by Yunhee and Songho, Earth's military intelligence officer. They had prepared for this. They had practiced their explanations. But Valshara's presence made everything feel futile. We understand your concerns, Daejun began carefully, but we believe there has been a misunderstanding about human culture. Then help me understand, Valshara said. Show me why your civilians need weapons of war. Yunhee activated the presentation. She had spent all night preparing it. Charts, graphs, historical context. Human weapon ownership dates back thousands of years, she explained. It's tied to our development as a species. Hunting for food, protection from predators, and yes, unfortunately, protection from each other. Go on. As we developed civilization, weapons remained part of our culture. In some regions more than others. But the key point is that weapon ownership and violence are not the same thing. Millions of humans own firearms and never harm anyone. Valshara's branches shifted. But some do harm others? Silence fell over the room. Songho finally answered, yes, we have violence. We have crime. We're not perfect. Define the scale of this violence. The numbers appeared on the screen. Homicide rates, armed conflicts, incidents per year. By galactic standards, they weren't terrible, but they weren't good either. Valshara studied the data. You maintain an armed civilian population despite regular violence? This makes no sense. Why not remove the weapons to reduce the violence? It's complicated, Daeun said. Some of our societies have tried that. Others believe the right to self-defense is fundamental. And statistically, most violence doesn't involve legally owned weapons anyway. So you have illegal weapons as well. Yes, Songho admitted. We have crime organizations. Black markets. Not everyone follows the law. Valshara's branches drooped. This is worse than I thought. You have armed civilians, armed criminals, and active conflicts. How do you maintain any stability at all? Because most people are good, Yunhee said passionately. Most people choose peace every single day. They have the capacity for violence, and they reject it. Doesn't that matter? It matters, Valshara said quietly. But it also terrifies me. She stood and walked to the window. Below, the streets of Geneva moved with normal life. People walking, talking, living their lives. They look so peaceful, she said. But according to your data, any one of them could be armed. Some probably are, Daejeon admitted. And you're comfortable with this? We're used to it. It's normal for us. Velshara turned back to them. Nothing about this is normal. The Confederation eliminated civilian weapons 3,000 years ago. Every species that joins us does the same. It is a requirement. Peace cannot exist when everyone is armed. Peace exists right now, Daejeon said firmly. Look outside. Those people aren't shooting each other. They're living their lives. We have peace despite our weapons, not because we lack them. Or perhaps you would have more peace if you lacked them. The argument went in circles. Hours passed. No one's mind changed. Finally, Velshara called for a break. I need to conduct more research, she said. I want access to your historical records, your war archives, everything. Sung-ho looked at Daejeon. Everything. She needs to understand us, Daejeon said tiredly. Give her access. That was a mistake. Over the next 3 days, Velshara absorbed human history like poison. She watched footage of wars, conflicts, and atrocities. She read about World War II, the nuclear bombings, the genocides, the endless cycles of violence that marked human civilization. Captain Nixar found her in the research room, surrounded by holographic displays of human warfare. Council member, you should rest. How can I rest? Velshara's voice shook. I just watched humans drop atomic weapons on cities full of civilians. I watched them fight wars that killed millions. And this species wants to join the Confederation? That was their past, Nixar said. They claim they've changed, have they? Look at this. She pulled up current data. Active conflicts in 14 regions, military spending in the trillions, and civilian weapons in nearly every household in some countries. They did pass our military review, Nixar reminded her. Their weapons were acceptable. Because we didn't know about the civilians, Velshara said bitterly. We reviewed their military and thought we understood them. But their military is just the tip of the blade. She sent a transmission to the Confederation Council. Humanity requires complete threat reassessment. Recommend membership be denied pending disarmament. The message reached Earth within minutes. Daejeon read it in his office and felt his heart break. Denied. After everything. After years of preparation and dreams of the stars. Denied. Hannah found him staring at the message. We're not giving up, she said. What choice do we have? They want us to disarm our entire planet. Even if our governments agreed, which they won't, it would take decades. Maybe centuries. Then we show them why we're worth the risk. I don't know yet, but there has to be a way. Yanhee joined them, looking exhausted. I've been talking to Ambassador Trelvax. He's sympathetic, but his hands are tied. Velshara has the authority here. Can we appeal to the full council? Sung-ho asked. We could try, but Velshara's report will carry weight. She's seen our history, our violence, our weapons. From her perspective, we're a species that hasn't learned peace yet. But we have learned it, Daejeon insisted. We're still learning it every day. Try explaining that to someone whose species learned it 3,000 years ago. A message came through from Velshara. She wanted to visit one more location, a weapons manufacturing facility. She wanted to see where civilian weapons were made. She's building a case against us, Sang-ho said. Or maybe she's trying to understand, Yanhee offered hopefully. Either way, we don't have a choice. Set it up. The visit was scheduled for the next morning. A civilian firearms manufacturer in rural America. The owner, Taekyung, was a former military engineer who had started his own company. He agreed to host the delegation, though he didn't understand why it mattered. Just show them your operation, Daejeon instructed over the phone. Be honest. Be professional. This might be our last chance. That night, Daejeon couldn't sleep. He stood on his hotel balcony, looking at the Valari ships in the sky. They had been symbols of hope. Now they felt like judges waiting to deliver a verdict. His phone buzzed. A message from G1. Got some interesting footage from my contacts. Velshara has been asking regular people about guns. She's trying to understand the culture, not just the weapons. Maybe there was hope after all. Maybe if Velshara met real people, talked to real humans about why they owned weapons and chose not to use them, she would understand, or maybe she would just confirm. Her fears that humanity was too dangerous for the stars, tomorrow would tell. The factory sat in the mountains of Montana, surrounded by pine trees and clear skies. Kai Young met them at the entrance, wearing a simple work shirt and jeans. He was in his 50s, with calloused hands and a warm smile. "Welcome," he said, bowing slightly to the aliens. "I understand you want to see how we make firearms." Shara studied him carefully. "You build weapons for civilians?" "I build quality tools for responsible people," Tai Kyung corrected gently. "Would you like to see?" The factory floor was clean and organized. Workers moved with practiced efficiency, assembling rifles piece by piece. Every step was careful, precise, almost artistic. "This facility could produce hundreds of weapons per week," Velshara observed. "We average about 200, Taekyung confirmed, though we're not always at full capacity. Demand varies." 200 weapons per week, Captain Nixar muttered. "Flowing into civilian hands?" "Into the hands of hunters, sport shooters, and collectors," Taekyung said. "People who respect what these tools can do." He led them to his office, where rifles lined the walls like art pieces. Some were antiques, others modern designs. Each one was beautiful in its own way. "May I ask why you build these?" Velshara asked. Taekyung sat down and gestured for them to do the same. "I was in the military for 20 years. I saw what weapons could do, the good and the bad. When I retired, I wanted to create something better. Weapons that were precise, reliable, and safe. Tools that would serve people, not hurt them. But they can hurt people," Velshara said. "So can a car, or a kitchen knife, or 100 other things. The tool isn't evil. The person using it makes the choice, and you trust people to make the right choice. Most of the time, yes. Sometimes I'm disappointed, but mostly I'm proud of my customers." The conversation was interrupted by Daejung's phone. He stepped away to answer. It was Sang-ho, and he sounded urgent. "We have a situation. Not a crisis, but you need to know. There's a shooting competition happening about 20 miles from your location. Professional level. If the Volari want to understand gun culture, this might help or hurt us." Daljong made a decision. "Send us the location. We're going." The shooting range was alive with activity. Competitors from around the country had gathered for the championship. Targets ranged from 50 to 1,000 meters. The sound of controlled gunfire echoed across the valley. Velshara stood at the observation area watching. Men and women of all ages fired with incredible precision. Between rounds, they laughed and talked, comparing techniques and sharing advice. "They're enjoying this," Velshara said, confused. "It's a sport," Hannah explained. "Like archery or gymnastics. It requires discipline, focus, and skill." A young woman approached, carrying a rifle. She saw the aliens, and her eyes went wide. "Oh wow, are you the Volari delegation?" "We are," Trelvac said. "That's amazing. Welcome to Earth." She noticed them watching the competition. "First time seeing sport shooting?" "Yes," Velshara said. "It is unexpected. Would you like to try?" The woman offered. "I can set up a safe demonstration." "That won't be necessary," Velshara said quickly. "Actually," Hannah interrupted, "I'd like to try." She looked at Velshara. "If you want to understand us, watch this." The young woman set up a target at 200 meters. Hannah took the rifle, checked it carefully, aimed, and fired. The bullet struck dead center. "Perfect shot," the woman said admiringly. "Are you military?" "I am," Hannah confirmed. "But I learned to shoot from my father. He was a civilian who hunted. He taught me respect for weapons before he taught me how to use them." She handed the rifle back. "Every person here has been trained. They know what these tools can do, and they choose to use them responsibly. That's the point you're missing. The choice. Velshara was silent for a long moment. May I speak with you privately? They walked away from the range, to a quiet spot overlooking the mountains. Hannah, Daejung, and Velshara stood together in the afternoon sun. Help me understand, Velshara said. Your people live surrounded by weapons. Any moment, any day, someone could choose violence. How do you bear that fear? We don't live in fear, Hannah said. We live in trust. Trust. I trust that my neighbor won't hurt me, that the person next to me at the grocery store who might be carrying a concealed weapon has no intention of using it. That trust is what makes society work. But that trust is sometimes broken, Velshara said. Your crime statistics prove it, yes, Hannah admitted. Sometimes it is, and that's tragic. But the vast majority of the time, millions of armed people choose peace. Every single day. Daejung added, You've removed weapons to create peace? We kept them and chose peace anyway. Isn't that worth something? Velshara's branches trembled. You're asking me to trust your species based on choices you make daily, rather than on systems that prevent those choices from being necessary. Yes, Hannah said simply. That's exactly what we're asking. They returned to the factory as evening fell. Taekyeon invited them to dinner at a local restaurant. The conversation was lighter, more personal. Velshara asked about human families, dreams, and fears. Do you have children? She asked Taekyeon. 3, all grown now. Did you teach them to use weapons? I taught them to respect weapons, to understand responsibility, to know that power requires wisdom. And do they own weapons? 2 of them do. 1 doesn't. Each made their own choice. After dinner, walking back to the vehicles, Velshara stopped. She looked up at the stars. In the Confederation, we achieved peace by removing the tools of violence. Your species keeps those tools and tries to achieve peace anyway. I don't know which approach is wiser. Maybe neither is completely wise, Daejung said. Maybe we're both still learning. Perhaps. Velshara turned to face them. I need to think about this. I will file my report tomorrow. That night, in the hotel, the human delegation waited nervously. Everything depended on what Velshara would write. He found Hannah on the balcony. Do you think we convinced her? I don't know, Hannah said. But at least she listened. That's more than I expected. In her quarters aboard the Volari ship, Velshara wrote her report. Her branches ached with the weight of the decision. She had seen human weapons, human violence, and human history. But she had also seen something else. Choice. Daily. Constant choice to be better than their capacity for destruction. She wrote, Humanity is dangerous. But they are dangerous to themselves most of all. They maintain the capacity for violence while striving for peace. This is unprecedented in Confederation history. Her branches paused over the keyboard. Recommend acceptance or denial? Before she could finish, an alarm blared through the ship. Emergency signal. Captain Nixar's voice came through the com. All hands to stations. We have a distress call from the science vessel at the edge of your solar system. They're under attack. Velshara's report was forgotten. They had a new crisis, and humanity was about to show the Volari what they were really capable of. The distress signal crackled through every speaker in the Volari flagship. A science vessel near Neptune was under attack. The message was broken, filled with static and fear. Unknown ships. Aggressive. Weapon systems failing. Require immediate assistance. Then silence. Captain Nixar stood at the command center, his many eyes wide with panic. Get me a visual on their position. The screen showed 3 angular ships surrounding the smaller Volari science vessel. The attackers fired brilliant red beams that tore through the science ship's shields. The Volari crew was trying to run, but they were too slow, too damaged. Who are they? Velshara demanded. Krell Nixar said, his voice shaking. Pirates. We drove them out of Confederation space 2 years ago. They shouldn't be here. Can we reach the science vessel in time? Not before they destroy it. Our diplomatic ships aren't built for combat. We're 3 hours away at maximum speed. On Earth, every major government received the same information simultaneously. The aliens who had come in peace were now in danger. in human space. Under human watch, Daejung's phone exploded with calls. Military leaders, presidents, diplomats, all asking the same thing. What do we do? He made it back to Geneva in under an hour. The emergency council was already in session. Songho stood at the main display, showing the tactical situation. The Krell are opportunistic predators, he explained. They saw the Volari here and followed them. They think this is an easy target. Can we reach the science vessel? The American general asked. We have assets near Jupiter. Patrol ships, research stations, a few military vessels that were conducting exercises. We could get there in 90 minutes. That's still too long, the Chinese admiral said. Look at the damage. That science vessel won't last 30 minutes. Then we send fighters, Hannah said. She had rushed to the meeting straight from Montana. Fast attack craft. We can launch within 15 minutes and reach them in 45. Everyone stared at her. You want to engage an unknown alien threat with fighters? The Russian general asked. We don't have anything else that's fast enough. The Volari specifically said their diplomatic ships aren't armed for combat, Songho added. If we don't help, those scientists will die. Daejung looked around the table. This is our chance to show them who we are. Not our weapons. Our character. We help our friends. The vote was unanimous. Launch the fighters. Aboard the Volari flagship, Velshara watched the human response with growing confusion. They're scrambling military assets, Nixar reported. But they're sending small craft. Very small. I don't understand their strategy. Are they attacking the Krell? They appear to be, but those ships are tiny. Single pilot vessels. Against 3 Krell warships? Velshara's branches tightened with worry. They're going to sacrifice themselves. Giwu checked her fighter one last time. Everything was ready. She had been running training exercises near Mars when the call came. Now she was leading a squadron of 12 fighters toward Neptune at speeds that would have been suicide for larger ships. Her co-pilot, another Korean fighter named Taemin, checked the tactical display. We're going to reach them before the Krell finish the job. Barely. Then we better make it count, Jiwoo said. Against 3 warships? Against 3 pirates who think they're safe, she opened the squadron channel. Listen up. The Volari are scientists. Peaceful explorers. And they're dying because some bullies followed them here. That's not happening in our space. Understood? 11 voices confirmed. They were ready. The fighters dropped out of high-speed transit right on top of the battle. The Krell never saw them coming. Jiwoo locked onto the nearest warship and fired. Her missiles streaked across space, slamming into the Krell shields. The enemy ship shuddered but held. Then 11 more fighters joined the attack. The concentrated fire overwhelmed the shields and tore into the hull. The Krell warship spun away, venting atmosphere. What just happened? The Krell captain screamed in his language. Where did they come from? The second Krell ship turned to face this new threat. But human fighters didn't fight like Confederation ships. They didn't stand and exchange fire. They moved. They danced through space like angry wasps, firing and dodging, splitting up and regrouping. Too fast to track. Jiwoo's fighter took a hit that would have destroyed a Volari ship. The armor plating absorbed most of it. She kept flying. They're shielded and armored, Taemin reported. What kind of species builds fighters this tough? One that's been fighting each other for centuries, Guhu muttered. We got very good at not dying. The Krell realized their mistake. These weren't peaceful explorers. These were predators. The remaining 2 warships turned to run. Oh no you don't, Jiwoo growled. Her squadron pursued. 3 more volleys, and the second Krell ship was disabled. The third managed to jump to faster than light speed. Fleeing the system, the battle was over in 8 minutes. Gu opened a channel to the Volari science vessel. This is Earthfighter Squadron 7. Are you all right? The response was shaking and grateful. Yes, thank you. Thank you. We thought we were dead. Not in our system. We're sending recovery ships. Just hang tight. Aboard the Volari flagship. Absolute silence reigned. Velshara and Nixar stared at the tactical display. 12 tiny human ships had just destroyed 2 Krell warships and driven off a third. "That's not possible," Nixar whispered. "Those fighters are smaller than our shuttles, but faster, more maneuverable, more aggressive." Velshara's branches trembled. And the pilots, they didn't hesitate. They saw danger, and they flew straight at it. A transmission came from Earth. Daejun appeared on screen. "Is your crew safe? We have medical ships on the way." "They're safe because of you," Velshara said slowly. "You're fighters." "They're remarkable. They're standard military craft," Daejun said. Nixar couldn't believe it. "Those ships moved like nothing I've ever seen. And they withstood hits that would destroy our vessels." "We build them tough," Daejun said. "We've had a lot of practice at war," Velshara finally understood. "The military demonstration you showed us, those weapons you displayed, that was your basic equipment, wasn't it? You didn't show us everything. We showed you what we used to keep peace," Sangho said, appearing beside Daejun. "We didn't show you what we used to win wars. There's a difference." "Why didn't you show us your full capabilities?" "Because we didn't want to scare you," Daojing said simply. "We wanted you to see us as friends, not threats." "But you are threats," Velshara said. "Those fighters proved it." "We're only threats to people who threaten us," Hannah added, joining the conversation. "The Valari came in peace, so we met you with peace. The Krell came with violence, so we met them with violence. That's the human way." Velshara sat down heavily. "I need to revise my understanding of your species." Over the next hours, the situation resolved. The Valari scientists were rescued. Earth's military ships arrived to provide security. The Krell were tracked, leaving the solar system, and would be dealt with by Confederation forces. But the conversation between Velshara and the human delegation continued late into the night. Was going to recommend that humanity be denied membership, Velshara admitted. "Your civilian weapons, your violence, your history, it all seemed too dangerous. And now," Daejun asked, "now I realize I was measuring you by the wrong standard. We achieved peace by removing weapons. You're achieving it by choosing not to use them. Both paths are valid, but yours is harder, much harder, because we have to make that choice every day," Youngie said. "Exactly." Velshara's branches moved, and what they had learned was a sign of respect. "Your civilian weapons concerned me, but after seeing your military in action, I realized those truly are civilian weapons by your standards. That concerns me more, but it also gives me hope." "Why hope?" Hannah asked. "Because if you can choose peace while being that capable of war, then perhaps you're stronger than we thought. Not physically stronger, morally stronger." She pulled up her report and began to write. "I will recommend full membership to the Confederation Council. But I will also recommend that humanity serve in our defense forces. We need your perspective. Your warriors who understand peace because they understand war." Daejun felt tears prick his eyes. They had done it. Not by changing who they were, but by showing who they truly were. 6 months later, human and Valari ships patrolled Confederation borders together. Giwu taught Valari pilots aggressive combat maneuvers they had never imagined. Yunhee established the first intercultural academy where humans and aliens learned from each other, and Daejun stood in the Confederation Council chamber as Earth was, formally welcomed as a full member species, ambassador. Trelvax gave the closing speech. "Humanity brings something to the Confederation that we had forgotten. The choice to be peaceful. We removed weapons and became peaceful by necessity. Humans keep weapons and choose peace anyway. That choice, that daily decision to be better than their capacity for destruction, is a gift to us all. Welcome, humanity. Welcome to the stars." The chamber erupted in applause from 17 different species. And humanity, still armed, still dangerous, still choosing peace, took their place among the civilized worlds of the galaxy. Not because they were harmless, but because they understood that true peace isn't the absence of weapons. It's the choice not to use them.